Hey everyone, this is Retro Renovo again with something a little different this time. We're going to take a quick look at the Retro Fighters Defender. This was a project that I backed on Kickstarter over a year ago, and it's finally shipped out. A lot of people are receiving their devices as we speak. I think the shipment started last week or maybe 2 weeks ago at this point at the filming of this video. First things first, there are a lot of specifications here that I'm not going to dig deeply into. There are even some people that are disassembling and breaking down, doing teardown videos. I'm not going to get into that. Suffice it to say, if you are thinking about ordering this or already did order it, you have already decided that those features are something you want. So, instead of getting deep into that, let's just talk about how it feels in your hands, the basics of, using the controller, something that's more important than maybe what's on the inside, really. Let's be real. If this thing doesn't feel good in your hands, you're not going to want to use it. We're at a point now where even, a few years ago, 5, 6 years ago, you could not really reliably get a controller online from a brand that maybe you're a little less familiar with and get it in your hands and actually enjoy it. Now we could probably just buy controllers online. For the most part, we get them in our hands and we like them. We can use them. They're usable. So this one is interesting for a couple reasons. It has a really good feel in the hands. However, I will note that if you are a stickler for heavy means better. This doesn't have a lot of weight to it. I went around and tried to compare the weight. I don't have a digital scale handy, so I'm just going on how it feels in the hands. This feeling to me is probably more accurate and gives more definition to how this actually feels than putting it on a scale. It's lighter than a DualShock 3, which I thought is very interesting. And I think the closest in weight that I could find almost exactly seems to be the Wavebird of Nintendo GameCube fame without batteries, right? So an unladen Wavebird is the almost identical weight to this thing. Now, it comes with some stuff, your USB cable, a USB dongle. I've tested it with the PS Classic, the little mini system. It works great. It's a little awkward pairing it. We'll get into that. It comes with the controller port adapter for some of your, your other PlayStation systems. You're going to plug into the memory card style slot. So if you did back this on Kickstarter, like I did, I got 2 of them. It was like $80 or something like that. You're not getting any extras. I thought maybe you would get a little token of appreciation, a little business card, some stickers, something like that. You're not going to get that. Maybe unless you're lucky, I don't know, or you invested in the highest tier of backer, category. I think you got a name recognition somewhere. Anyway, they come pretty well packaged. I don't think you're going to run into any issues there. Again, they don't weigh much, so they're not going to fall very hard. But back to the controller, okay? There are a couple things that I don't really like. And again, this could be just peculiarities of what I look for in a controller. But when you get it in your hands, that weight seems to be a little awkwardly placed. Usually, especially with the DualShock 3, it's like a sports car, right? I just some people don't like the older DualShocks. That DualShock 3 is like a sports car. It's perfectly balanced in your hands. It just feels kind of natural despite its size being a little small, right? This doesn't feel like that. It feels like it wants to tip out of your hand. If you had a relaxed grip, or maybe somebody who's clumsy who's using it, or maybe you're clumsy yourself, just kind of slinging this thing around, it's going to want to kind of fall off of stuff, would be my prediction. You have it on a couch or a table, something that has a slight slant to it. It's very, very slippery. Some controllers they have like pressure points that try to hold them down. It's kind of hard to describe, but some controllers they feel like they're gonna stay planted, right? So you put a controller down and you're like, okay, when I come back, this thing's still gonna be here. It's not gonna fall into the ground under some circumstance or easily bumped and thrown to the ground. This feels like it's gonna fly around quite easily. Joysticks, they feel good. I don't really know what else to say about it. They feel good. The texture, little recessed dimple kind of thing in the middle, it feels good. It feels familiar. The responsiveness to the clicks, the clicks feel good. D-pad, not great. Don't really expect much from D-pads these days anyway. There's a lot to be said about the D-pad. It works. It doesn't slide around. Some D-pads, they'll slide. Think of like an N64 D-pad that kind of wants to like float around in its mounting area. This thing's nice and tight. I give it that. But it just doesn't have some kind of a texture on the D-pad would be really just, take it to the next level. You're not going to get that. I'll give that like an 8.3 out of 10, okay? With a dimple or a texture, I'd give it like a 9.5. Joysticks, I'm giving them like a 9.2, okay? Start and select, start and select. You could feel the triangle, you could feel the rectangle, all right? Feel the triangle, feel the rectangle. Okay, you're good. They respond, they make contact and stuff happens. Okay, great. Next, the home button. That's a weird one. I don't really know what else to say about it. They clearly just plug and played one of the directional buttons, your triangle, square, circle, X. They just dropped one of those into the middle. Totally understandable. It works. I get it. But looking at the home icon down in this like recessed area in the bottom of this jewel type thing, it's just kind of wacky. There's a couple of different things they could have done here. It works. Maybe it'll just grow on me, but initially you're going to look at it and it's kind of weird. So are the status lights. There's 4 LEDs stacked vertically beneath the home button. They'll illuminate to tell you different things. I'm not going to get into that. If you want to know, look at the user manual. But when you're in different modes of pairing, they will tell you what's up, and it's just kind of awkward. The recessed area, with the translucent controllers, maybe this is different, of course. Certainly would be with the opaque colors like gray or whatever other opaque colors there are. I have 2 translucent ones here, so the light illuminates this large bar. It just doesn't look, I don't know. it looks odd. Okay, next are the triangle, square, circle, X. They feel okay. Again, where arguably they got away with the home button being this glossy, textureless, really slippery kind of button that has some degree of wobble. I'll call it like a 15% wobble. Doing that on the other buttons, you're going to be hitting X all the time. You're going to be hitting square. So, you're going to be hitting these buttons a lot. That wobble, okay, we could work with that, but it's slippery. I don't know really what to say about it. I haven't used it that much. They work, okay, but I don't have a sense of sensitivity, durability. Just something about the slippery, glossy feel. I think you might have, you might have an issue with it. Again, this is kind of, in my understanding, is the only controller of its kind, really, to have all these compatibilities with the PlayStations. But, really, okay, whatever. Moving on. I guess these would be the turbo and clear buttons. So clear is diagonally above and to the right of start. Turbo is diagonally and above to the left of select. No texture on these guys, just straight up little buttons. Don't know what else to say about them. They click. There's some feedback there. It feels solid, but anyway, moving on. Triggers, okay, they feel normal. There's no like progressive squeeze or anything like that. It's a pretty static amount of pressure all the way through. For example, your R2 and your L2s. It's a steady degree. It builds a little bit at the very end, but it's kind of not that palpable. Your R1 and your L1, they click. Doesn't take much pressure to click them, so that's kind of a nice thing. You don't have to work hard. A lot of these newer controllers with their weight and their heavier springs, I guess, you gotta do a lot of work. You're not gonna get that sense of quality here, right? If you're a stickler for quality, weight, spring strength, uh, you know, how hard you have to push stuff as an indicator of quality, you're not gonna get that here. This is a very much a budget Logitech kind of feel all the way around, including its weight. Anyway, so the back, we have some kind of pairing button underneath the Retro Fighters logo. That's a flush mount. Looks like you just hit that to pair up. And on the back, I guess the top, technically, not the back, where you have your USB-C charge port, we have... It looks like this, like a Switch style screen capture button or something like that. I don't even really know what these are. I'd have to get the manual out, to be honest. I just kind of glossed over these. They're flush mounted and they have images on them. But how are you going to see the images if the buttons are facing away from you in any kind of lighting other than full on illumination? You're not going to be able to see what these buttons are. So again, I have to take some points off. Okay, great. You put an image on there. It's just not doing it for me. So all in all, I'll give this controller like a 7.9. And I'm taking a point down because this could be arguably like a mid-8s, right? But it is the only thing of its kind. Maybe I should rate it higher, but there's a ton of controllers out there. There's a ton. I don't care that this is the only one out there now, because probably 6 months from now, this is going to be one of many. So along these lines, I'll give it like a 7.9, maybe low 8s all around. It's going to do the job for you. Again, I don't know about longevity. I don't think this could take a very hard fall. A hard fall, I don't know. Something about the plastic, I guess we've come a long way over the years, but something about the plastic seems like you'll get a stress crack in that pretty quickly. Everything else, though, and I do like how the joysticks, I glossed over this, the joystick base, so not the part that you touch with your thumb, but the ball and socket part, are matching the color of the controller. I think that's really cool. It'll keep the finger dust and debris kind of not as noticeable. It'd be nicer if it was a matte finish. It seems to be glossy. A matte finish would have been nicer to match the rest of the controller. But maybe there's, some issues with friction if it were matte. So that's my guess. Anyway, it works. I've tested on the PS Classic. That's all I've really tested it with now. But I'm going to test the PS2, PS3 probably here pretty shortly. But anyway, yeah, I say 7.9. I'm sticking with a 7.9. 7.9, you could do a lot worse. Arguably they could have done better. It's going to work for you. Anyway, this is Retro Renovo. Like and subscribe if you haven't. Should have told you that in the beginning, right? Thanks for watching.